What up guys, my name is Ace, and I'm probably the best nature healer in the world. In this video, I will explain our Heronspear and Bear setup in detail. I will go over our exact builds, and I will explain why we've chosen the items we use. I will also talk a bit about the future of this channel at the end of the video, but as always, there are timestamps in the description below if you want to skip ahead to anything. And without further ado, let's get into the Heronspear build consists of the Heronspear itself with lunging strikes, Forest of Spears, and the Life Leech passive, together with a Moisek offhand, Scholar Cal with Energy Shield, Hellion Jacket with Lifesteal Aura, Cleric Sandals with Blink, a Limmerscape, Beef Stews, and Resistance Potions. The Limmerscape and Resistance Potions should be pretty self-explanatory, with Cleric Sandals to blink out of incoming CC. Hellion Jacket allows for incredible survivability while siphoning health from the enemies. The Scholar Gal gives back an incredible amount of energy while getting hit while it's active, while also giving a nice resistance bonus. You really need this energy to sustain the Moisek offhand. While giving a nice damage bonus, it also increases your energy cost. For the Heronspear itself, the Life Leech passive is the least useless passive we have here. A single target slow is pretty useless. A 7% damage increase would be nice, however timing it with the clap isn't really worth the effort. And obviously an attack speed bonus is kind of useless in this comp. At the very least, the Life Leech passive will heal you for a few hundred HP per fight. The main goal of the Heronspear is to look for the clap. Once you see it, you press E on it for a massive AoE stun. Then you press Forest of Spears, this build's biggest damage ability. Due to its quite big AoE radius, it racks up AoE escalation quite easily. With the somewhat recent changes to Forest of Spears, you no longer need a Lyrian Cane to get the full W off. Some alternative items you could use for this build are Mage Sandals and Stalker Shoes. You could also opt to use Deadwater Eel instead, for shorter cooldowns for the price of slightly less damage. We also have another build for the Heronspear. It changes the offhand from Moisek to Lyrian Cane and Scholar Cal to Call of Purity. With the stun on E being longer, you can cast Avalonian Beam and then press W. You still have a long enough stun duration for the entire W to hit. This build certainly has potential, however due to lacking Scholar Cal, you will eventually run out of energy in a very long fight. If you plan on running this setup, I would recommend trying out both builds to see which one you like the most. Next up is the Primal build consists of the Primal Staff itself with Reality Fissure, Distortion, and Altered Beast passive, Mercenary Hood with Howl, Cleric Robe with Everlasting Spirit, Stalker Shoes with Raging Blink, a Limmerscape, Beef Stew, and Resistance Potions. Limmerscape and Resistance Potions should be pretty self-explanatory, with Cleric Sandals to blink out of incoming CC. Cleric Robe is here as a defensor from claps, with a Mercenary Hood here to help out your teammates from getting clapped. If you can get a Howl onto the enemies as they are trying to clap you or your teammates, you will reduce their damage done by 30%, practically nullifying the clap. The only reason we chose Altered Beast passive over Intimidating Presence is that we found the Primal Staff to be the squishiest person in this comp. Getting the 10% extra health while in bear form is a massive help. Sometimes you're just not in a position to Q a lot in human form for the damage reduction. Change this passive to Intimidating Presence if you feel so inclined. They are both pretty good. Some decent alternative items for the Primal build would be Mage Sandals or Cleric Sandals. Once again, you can use Deadwater Eel Stew for the cooldown reduction for a slight decrease in damage. You can also change the Mercenary Hood for a Soldier Helmet. While it doesn't help your teammates, it is the single best anti-clap weapon defensive in the game. We however prefer to have some more help for our teammates with Mercenary Hood. The way we play Primal Staff might be a little bit weird. We often get comments and Twitch chatter saying that we should use the Bear W for the Pierce. However, this is unnecessary and will lead to you dying with this setup. The way we play Bear is that we use the human form for damage. While the enemy clump is getting hit by the Heron E and W, you put down Distortion and throw a Q or two in the clap. While not clapping, you will mostly be hanging around in the Bear form, as the Bear form is considerably more tanky than running around in Cloth Human. The Bear Q stun and the W dash and fear are used for kiting only. Using the dash and the fear for kiting instead of damage allows us to live some crazy scenarios. Using the dash for the pierce would mean that the bear player is in an incredibly bad position if the clap fails. We have recently also started playing this comp with a completely different shapeshifter staff, namely Lightcaller. With the Lightcaller staff on Reality Fissure, Distortion, and Altered Beast passive. Mercenary Hood with Howl, Judicator Armor with Force Field, Cleric Sandals with Blink, Limmerscape, Beef Stews, and Resistance Potions. Not wanting to drag out this video too much, I think most aspects of this build have been explained previously. The Judicator armor is very much switchable for Guardian or Duskweaver. We just prefer having a nice group defensive from Judicator armor without having to be in the enemy team with a Guardian armor. The way you play Lightcaller compared to Primal is the complete opposite. While with Primal you are squishy as a human and are mostly hanging out in the bear form, With Lightcaller, you are in the human for the most of the time, only switching to the eagle when clapping. The Lightcaller passive Light Spark and Q Piercing Light make an incredible clapping combination. We would not recommend using Judgment on the clap, as the hit is pretty slow. It is doable, however we found that just using the passive and Q is more consistent. Instead, you can either just ignore this W or use it to pressure off melees. Cast this on yourself while a melee is chasing you and watch him run away. Switching the Q and W on human form is pretty doable here. If you want to use Pulse Shock, Positional Drift, Tether Shift, or Polymorph instead, feel free to do so. The damage with plate armor is pretty low anyway. However, we found that the range on the Q is pretty helpful to maintain stacks, and the W has an incredibly low cooldown to maintain those stacks as well. Having 5 stacks on Eagle is quite important due to its other passive, giving you an immunity to roots and slows while transforming with 5 stacks, and a nice 60% movement speed bonus for 3 seconds. Last but not least, let's talk about the Great Nature build consists of the Great Nature itself with Rejuvenation, Protection of Nature, and Adrenaline-driven Charity. A Scholar Cal with Energy Shield, Hellion Jacket with Lifesteal Aura, Stalker Shoot with Raging Blink, a Limherscape, Avalonian Proc Omelet, and Resistance Motions. I know what most of you are thinking right now. This man has completely lost it. A healer build with Hellion Jacket and both Limherscape and Scholar Cal? But let me try to do my best to explain this build. While it looks pretty meme, and it is, it has some incredible capabilities while outnumbered. With both my teammates being relatively tanky, with Hellion Jackets or a tanky bear form, you don't necessarily need the increased Q healing that Cloth Armor provides. The Hellion Jacket allows me to be nearly immortal in most fights. The Great Nature E has been nerfed plenty of times in the past, and for a 3v3 situation this weapon heals close to nothing. A perfectly timed E will heal yourself or an ally up to full within a second, which means you don't really need to worry about getting purged. Of course, getting purged is scary, but a well-timed E makes it almost impossible to purge it. It's mainly luck if they hit the purge in time. This build does require you to use the passive Adrenaline-driven Charity as much as possible though. If you want to learn more about how this works and how to use it, I've made a video in the past about it. I will leave a link in the description below. I often get people telling me that I don't need a Limherscape on this build, and they aren't exactly wrong. With a Scholar Cal, this build will sustain its energy. However, if for whatever reason your Scholar Cal doesn't get hit, you run out of energy and you will die. This could be a purge, the enemy simply not hitting it, or a misuse on the player's end, which is mostly the case for me. As someone who is not the best at using Scholar Cal, I prefer to have the Limherscape as a backup. A Limherscape alone is not enough to sustain energy on this build. It's a nice failsafe if one of your Scholar Cals gets messed with. Besides, the other capes options aren't all that great in my opinion for this build. Sure, a Martlock cape is okay, but not really needed. For anyone trying this build, I would highly recommend just running a Limherscape. Speaking of using this build, make sure you use it in the right situation. This build is meant to be played with 1 or 2 tankier teammates, while being heavily outnumbered, preferably 3v7 or higher. Are you 4 players or more? Just don't use this build. Are you 3 but have a full Cloth Frost? Don't play this build, play a normal Cloth one-handed nature build instead. Are you playing 2v2 Hellgates, or looking to fight 3v4, 3v5 fights? Don't use this build. This build thrives on having many enemies hit your E. The fewer enemies there are, the more opportunity for your E to become completely useless. Some decent alternatives for this build are Mage Sandals and Cleric Sandals. Besides this, I wouldn't recommend changing anything about this build, besides maybe the cape. You could of course always run a normal Cloth one-handed nature build instead, and you will do fine in this comp. To find the Cloth one-handed nature build, I have a video covering that too. I will link it down in the description as well. If you have any questions about the builds, the comp in general, or about anything else, feel free to leave it in the comments. I would like to talk a tiny bit about the future of this channel. For starters, I am currently running this channel and making all the videos for it. I plan on changing the schedule for the videos a bit. On Sunday, around 16 UTC, I will continue releasing the 3vx and 4vx small scale videos. But from now on, I will do my best to have another video ready every Wednesday, releasing around 18 UTC. These videos will not all be PvP oriented. These videos will range from testing in-game mechanics like the AoE escalation stuff, build videos such as these, EU guild content videos, and a huge array of different kinds of content, so stay tuned for that. As well as these YouTube changes, I will also start streaming more on Twitch. After the EU server is released, I will stream 6 evenings a week. The only day off for me will be Thursday, with the 4vx content still being played on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On Monday and Tuesday, I will do other random content with guildmates, such as roads, other 4vx comps, and maybe even some outposts. So if you would like to see all of this content live, make sure to follow me there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.